Hello and welcome to round 4 of Really Rubbish Racing V8 Australicars, and today we'll be racing at South Australia's world famous Adelaide Street Circuit. I'm Nicholas Gloomis and joining me once again is Tom Brooks. Hello Tom.
Hello there Nick, how are you? You well?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad at all. Great to be back commentating on the V8 Australicars series, and we've got a 40-20 split for the Street Sprint today. 40 minutes for race 1, of course, and then a 20-minute sprint for race 2. The circuit that's 2 miles long, 3.23 kilometres, 14 turns in total, about 30 laps for race 1 with 21 cars set to take the grid. I'll tell you what, Nick, we are in for a cracker of a race, I have to say.
We certainly are. We've seen before in the street races from Really Rubbish Racing that they come with lots of action, lots of drama, and here's the championship standings. Sam Harani is leading the way on a perfect 100, 15 points ahead of Ollie Knight, so he's got quite a bit to catch up. He's going to look to be making big inroads into that championship lead with these 2 races. Obviously a perfect opportunity, but of course the perfect opportunity for Sam Harani to also extend the lead. And April Dunn is still sitting there in 3rd place, doing very well this season.
Yeah, certainly so. Don't forget, of course, Barbara Gallo in a couple of rounds' time is double points as well, so that'll certainly be a chance where Knight can claw some back.
Certainly so. You can all swing on the turn of one race, some kind of misfortune or maybe a strategic tactical error as we saw in the final round of last year.
Well, you never know. Anything is unpredictable in this sport, and certainly this racing as well. So then we're going to wait for the pole lap to be coming up in just a few moments' time. We'll guide you around with the chap who took pole position. But this circuit, of course, a very, very difficult circuit, full of lots of technical corners, a few 90-degree right and left-handers, and of course the infamous corner by Flinders Street, where Schumacher won the championship over Damon Hill in '94. Who can forget that?
Yes, one of the very many memories the circuit holds, of course, is the famous 1986 race where Nigel Mansell looked sure to win the World Championship, and of course his tyre blew, forcing his teammate Nelson Piquet to pit as a precaution and handing Alain Prost his 2nd world title.
Certainly did, of course, and who can forget 1995, I believe it was it Mika Häkkinen, of course, had that terrifying accident in qualifying, didn't he? And suffered some quite severe injuries, but thankfully managed to make a full recovery. Not expecting anything of the like in the V8 monsters today, though.
Certainly so, and I think it was 93 where Damon Hill won by 2 laps.
Something like that, yeah, of course, and also relating back a couple of years before that, 91, who can forget the 14-lap race with Senna claiming the victory, one of the shortest races, if not the shortest race in Formula 1 history. Anyway, then let's have a look at the pole lap on board with Sam Harani, set a 1:16.5, and let's guide you round then as he comes down the start-finish straight, heading towards the Senna chicane for the first time, over towards the right-hand side of the circuit, shifting up to 5th gear before he goes down into 3rd for the right, to the left, and then the right-hander, ringing through this left-hander, ringing it out towards the right-hand side of the barrier there, swinging over to the left-hand part of the circuit before the right-hander here into 2nd gear. 80 miles an hour he's going down to, into 1st for this one though. Look at this, 50 miles an hour. He's really going to be struggling with traction, and that of course the infamous incident we were talking about with Senna and with Schumacher and Damon Hill all those years ago. Harani there using all of the track and some that he shouldn't as he comes down there now on towards the Hutt Street straight then. And looking down here, it's a really very, very monstrous part of the lap. Sorry, the Brabham Straight, I apologise rather. Anyway, going through the flat-out right-hand, 145 miles an hour on his clock, up into 6th gear before breaking down into 2nd for this very, very difficult hairpin. If you can pronounce it, you'll be doing a better job than I can, because I certainly can't. In towards the left-hand part of the circuit then, into 60 miles an hour, 2nd gear through this final part of the lap, heading up then towards Foster's Corner, the final corner on the lap, through the right-hander, 4th gear, 120 miles an hour or so, in towards this final hairpin, then down into 1st gear, 40 miles an hour on the speedo, and a flat out then, heading towards the line. Someone else's sponge is ahead of him, but that's not going to deter Harani. A cracking pole position lap from the offender's driver once again.
Yeah, superbly tamed the twisty tarmac of this circuit. It was actually 1995 when Damon Hill won by 2 laps, I just checked.
Oh, there we go. Nicely done. On the fly as well. So let's take him through the grid then, Nick.
Yeah, so Sam's on pole, joined again by James Price-Harper. No surprise as well, this top 4, Ollie Knight and Lee Harrison. It's business as usual from this lot, from the N teams and of course from Junior Motorsport. Speaking of Junior Motorsport, Tom White is up there in 5th. I think that's his season best so far. Joined on the 3rd row by Joe Nathan. Tom Bellingham continuing what's been quite a good season of qualifying for him on row 4. He's joined by Bjorn Golder. Pete Walker then, his customary 10th, 11th, somewhere their position. Jay Cooper now coming in for the first time this season. Jay Cooper has of course been a former champion before, but he's only just started to get into this season. Dan Thorne, good qualifying by him in 13th, usually much further back, so let's see if he can get a few points in these two races. Rob Covey there, 16th. Tom Kowalski for Team Atom is in 17th, joined by Craig Woolard. And then the usual suspects rounding out near the bottom of the grid, Dave Morley and Matt Davies there, struggling still with these cars. And Ben Hamilton brings up the rear in 21st position.
5.5 seconds off the pace for Hamilton. He will surely be looking to improve as the season progresses, as we go into the latter part of it. But of course, a rolling start for the grid then, and Harani we're on board with. It certainly is. Look at this, what a view. That is spectacular. Really looking forward to the racing. If we could watch that from Harani's viewpoint for the whole race, I think we'd be quite happy there, Nick.
And I think we would also be able to see the rest of the field, because Harani is probably going to have a good chance of just streaking away here. Quite difficult to overtake. Only a few places, of course, but obviously if you get it wrong, you can lose a whole bunch of places at the same time.
Certainly are. So the cars are lining up in their position, of course, odds on the left and evens on the right-hand side of the track. So, of course, Harani will be on the left and James Price-Harper will be on the right. And as such, so then, waiting for the 5 red lights to come on. The grandstands are absolutely packed. Round 6 of the V8 Australicars Championship is go. It's Harani then who gets the jump. And look at then, that's Ollie Knight challenging James Price-Harper in towards turn 1. But I think Harani and Ollie Knight, oh no, an incident there. No. That's Tom White going round. Goodness gracious me. And Bjorn Golder also caught up in there, the Scuderia Orcello driver, the German, he is caught out, and Tom White also going round. A terrible start then for those two, and also Lee Harrison there further back in the field.
The 2 power drivers, wow.
Look at that, spectacular from, oh dear, and that's, I believe,
is
Campbell Wallace, number 64, the Kibitsu Racing driver, spins round. He's going to have to wait for the traffic to disperse before he can get back underway. Dan Thorne then up into 8th place off the start, the Independables driver, and Alex O'Dell now going round for power. Unbelievable, the number 23 spins out. Oh, fantastic drama here. Tom White then down his 18th place off the start. Smoke, tyres, goodness gracious me, cars spinning all over the place.
Oh, is that Jay Cooper just getting involved in an incident there, and he's going to lose all this speed down the Brabham Straight. His car's going by him left, right and centre.
Look at this, it's a very, very wide straight and people are taking advantage of it as well. Is that Jay Cooper without a front bumper, I believe?
Holden straight into the wall, that was a big
Goodness gracious me, look at that, Tom White going around the outside, Matt Davies up the inside, also Lee Harrison trying to be opportunist there, trying to take off 2 corners. Two drivers in 1 corner, goodness gracious me, he's still got a full race left yet. Oh dear, oh dear. Anyway, Lee Harrison we're on board with it. Oh, spins Matt Davies round there as well. Goodness gracious. Does the good thing though and slows down to let Matt Davies through and retake his position. Yellow flag, of course, out on circuit due to the drama that we've been experiencing so far. Jay Cooper then goes into the pit lane, and also Bjorn Golder, they're going up the inside of Dave Morley for the Monolith Motorsports outfit. Ben Hamilton, though, currently up into 14th place after his 21st grid position. He'll be thrilled with that. It's Joe Nathan now spinning round. Goodness, oh dear, number 26 for the Valor Racing team. He spins round. Oh dear, and Alex O'Dell just missing the wall there going around. And I think, is that Craig Woolard without a bumper, or is that just his paint scheme?
I think that's the usual deceptive optical illusion at the front of this thing. But there's Tom Bellingham in 4th now. We've seen him quite a few times in this position. He's going to be desperately wanting to get that first podium of the season. And he's got, I think, is that Ollie Knight ahead of him?
I think it must be, because of course Tom White further down the order, so it must be Ollie Knight with the white backside of his car, the infamous Wales livery, and a very nice livery it is, I must say, as well, being part Welsh, so I'm going to be a bit biased. Anyway, going through the left-hander they go on lap 2 out of 30, and it's already been an action-packed start, but needless to say, Harani and James Price-Harper streaking away out in front. A cracking start for the offenders. They really couldn't have wished for a better way to kick off their Adelaide campaign, as that's Dave Morley looking to challenge Ben Hamilton, as Joe Nathan on the recovery drive for the Valor Racing team. He goes very wide out of the right-hander and into the left of East Terrace then, and through to this part of the lap, doing very, very well into the final part then. Joe Nathan up into 15th ahead of Dave Morley now then, and it's Alex O'Dell and Craig Woolard going side by side in towards the centre chicane for the third time. Oh no, he hasn't, because oh dear, that
was very brave by O'Dell.
Oh no, but he spins it out of the corner. Fantastic drama. That's Craig Woolard spinning out then, and he's going to be very lucky not to get collated by those other drivers. Let's have a look at the replay, Nick.
Let's see, I thought he had, he just got over the curb and unsettled the car, probably spinning up the wheels, and that's all it takes to get yourself into the wall in this circuit.
It certainly does. It's a very, very fine line between the barrier and kissing the apex and managing to keep the car on the island. But April, they're down in 7th place, very unaccustomed to being so low, will Dylan be, and she'll be looking to make some gains for the Howler Racing team. Howler Racing, incidentally, have had a cracking run so far this season, especially with Dylan behind the wheel.
Certainly have, and speaking of drivers who are unaccustomed to where they look at this. Dan Thorne in 6th position. He struggled all season long, often coming last and not even finishing the races, but it's only lap 3, but so far so good.
Yeah, let's hope it continues for Dan Thorne. He really does deserve a good result, I feel. He's sort of been robbed of a few things, mechanical failures and some driver errors as well, it must be said. He's really been struggling in the early part of this season, and hopefully we'll now see him tame the cars as we come in towards the latter part of the V8 Australicars. Dylan hot on his heels and getting very, very squirrely in towards the Foster's corner once again. And I think it's only a matter of time before Dylan, as she gets a very good exit and swings towards the right-hand side. I don't think she'll be able to manage to get past at the moment, but just a waiting game. As a puff of smoke there in the foreground as well. I think there must be someone locking up into turn 1. Very easy to do so. But as I mentioned, Sam Hirani out in front. James Price-Harper not too far behind as well. Ollie Nice in 3rd place. Tom Bellingham in 4th. Great result there for him so far. Pete Walker of the power team into 5th. Dan Thorne, as we mentioned, in 6th. April Dillon there in 7th, with Alex O'Dell in 8th. Tom White in 9th, and Craig Woolard rounding out the top 10.
Well, White's done a very good job. He was in about 20th position last time we checked, and now he's into the top 10 already.
Yeah, fantastic result so far. Who's that going wide out there? That must be Tom Bellingham going a bit wide, or is it Dan Thorne? I apologise.
I think it must be Dan Thorne.
It is, yes, as we look back from that man. Number 802, Independables driver, coming down the straight, then in towards it. It's a cracking part of the lap. I love that bit. Fantastic. It's so easy, though, just to sort of misjudge how much steering lock you lead, or take a bit too much speed through that corner and just clip the barrier, and that could be your race run.
Yes, we saw Hamilton do that in the first lap, although I think he had a little help in that.
Oh no, Dan Thorne, what have we said? Spins round. Oh, Alex O'Dell collects him as well. Dear oh dear, the 802 of the Independables spinning round in the latter part of the lap on lap 5. Alex O'Dell hindered his progress as well. Goodness gracious me, O'Dell there had nowhere to go. Not Dan Thorne's fault that O'Dell was caught up in that for the power team. And Dan Thorne also without a front bumper now, so he's going to have to make an unscheduled pit stop, and that's going to launch him down towards the back end of the order, as O'Dell also without a front bumper. Is he going to be able to just cross it back over into the pit lane, or is he out of the race?
He's parked it.
He is, or is he just waiting for traffic to go past? I think, oh no,
no, that's not very safe.
God, my heart was in my mouth then. They both managed to just about make it into the pit lane, as I think that's Lee Harrison then and Bjorn Golder then side by side on the straight once again, heading in towards the centre chicane, and Harrison just remains ahead of Bjorn Golder, then the Bjorn Golder, of course, who identified in the last round as Swedish. He is in fact German, I apologise. I thought of Bjorn, I thought of ABBA, and linked the two up. It didn't work together, but Lee Harrison then.
This is an easy enough mistake.
It is, challenging the Kaibitsu racing team driver. That must be Cameron Wallace further down the order.
I think it's Crawford, isn't it?
No, I can't see from the. I think it is Cameron Wallace, number 64. There we are.
Yes, 64. There.
So there we are. Very close on the circuit. Cameron Wallace, of course, recovering from his earlier spin in the race. Lap 5 out of 30 we're currently on, and it is a fantastic race full of action. The sun is shining, the engines are roaring, and we are in for a cracker of a race. Long may it continue. Through that right-hander, as I mentioned, so easy just to clip the wall on the outside. But Lee Harrison launching a one up the inside of Campbell Wallace is going to be able to make the move stick. Brakes very late, and Wallace has nothing to do but surrender the position. And Lee Harrison then of the defenders does manage to get ahead up into 11th position. So 2 points currently on the board for Lee Harrison, and Campbell Wallace down to 1, but not for long by the looks of things, because Bjorn Golder of Scuderia and Cello is very, very close behind. And who's that? That's Tom Kowalski. He's had a torrid race. Oh, dear. Oh, they go, no. Oh, goodness gracious me. Campbell Wallace caught up in there, and also Bjorn Golder as well. They collect him on the straight, and Tom Kowalski, they just tried to recover his position and had nowhere to go. He's going to have terminal damage, if not very, very heavy damage on his Holden at the moment, and that's Bjorn Golder without a front bumper, and also Campbell Wallace as well, so front bumpers without galore. I think that's the order of the day at the moment, so not a lot of front grip on these cars, and that's going to really cause them a lot of understeer. But Sam Hirani has absolutely cruised out in front along with teammate James Price-Harper. They are absolutely streets ahead of the field, if you'll pardon the pun.
I will. I appreciate the pun. But it's amazing, really, how close James Price-Harper is. Usually you see Hirani streak away and that's it. You never see him again until checkered flag. But James Price-Harper really doing a good job. Of course, he's got to get ahead of Hirani and finish ahead of him more frequently if he's going to have any say in this championship whatsoever. And here's Dave Morley now behind Kowalski. We saw he had that spin. He's usually you have to wait to recover, but he was slammed.
Oh dear, that's Wallace in the wall as well up ahead. Of course, he's not got a front bumper. Neither has Kowalski's got a front bumper. Of course, he didn't suffer any sort of damage. I expected him to have some. Oh dear, as he spins round. Oh dear, as I say that, I thought he might have some kind of suspension damage due to the incident there. It was quite a hard whack he took. So I was really expecting him to have more damage, but he was recovering okay. up until that point where he spun off, of course, going through the Dequetteville hairpin. I'm going to call it the Dequetteville.
Oh, and this is Bellingham right with Odell now.
It is. Odell, of course, a lap down, though, is he not, with the incident as well? So Bellingham trying to get past... Odell trying to get past Bellingham at the moment then. So he's trying to unlap himself by the looks of things because, as I mentioned, Odell, of course, had to pit for a new front bumper and he's a lap down then. So he's trying to unlap himself from Bellingham at the moment. And, yeah, interesting to see how this is faring.
Yeah, I mean, Bellingham's got a choice. I mean, he knows that Odell's going to be a lap down, so he doesn't want to really put up too much of a fight. But again, he doesn't want to really surrender too easily because either way, he's going to lose a bunch of time. And that could be crucial come the end of the race, of course, with tyre wear we've seen having played such a big part in some other races.
Well, that's certainly the case, of course, but the one thing that Tom Bellingham will need to take into account of the Independables, he'll need to take into account, of course, the fact that he might incur some kind of penalty if he does end up holding Odell up. Of course, the blue flags mean that the driver in front does... oh, sorry, that's the other... Oh, dear goodness gracious me, as I say that, Tom Bellingham hits the wall, spins round, and oh my goodness, the number 33 does manage to get avoided by all the cars, but what an impact that was. Oh, goodness gracious. Let's have a look at the replay then from an external shot. Let's see. Oh, just clip the curb, and oh dear, that launched the car into the other side. Thank goodness for catch fencing. So let's have a look at that. Oh, just too close on the...
So easily done.
It is, on the street circuit. Oh, blimey O'Reilly.
Just looking for that little bit more time, and that's what happens.
It is, just trying to save...
Happens to the best of them.
Yeah, it does. So trying to save those few extra tenths on that lap, and didn't manage to do so, and he's lost a bunch for the time. I expect he'll probably have some kind of suspension damage due to the severity of that impact. On board then with April Dillon chasing down Dan Thorne then of number 802. These guys still battling for 6th position. April Dillon then slots up the inside into the Dequetteville hairpin. Is she going to be able to manage out break Dan Thorne? He closes the door though at the last moment.
Nicely.
Oh dear, great defending there from Dan Thorne. Really showing that he's got some racecraft and knows how to use it when he is able to put it into practice.
Certainly so. He just decided instead of trying to chop her off or kind of let her by and try and overtake again, he just kept the momentum all around the outside of the hairpin and just did enough to keep the position. And it's really impressive, really, how he's found another gear this race. It must be something in the setup he's found. It so often it's just a tiny little setting just to change on the car, and suddenly it works like magic.
It could be that. It could be the fact that Dan Thorne's always he goes a bit wide of that chicane, just ahead in the centre chicane. It could be the fact that he's just very good at the circuit. Other drivers sort of struggling with the street nature of it, and of course the walls being so close, struggling to find your braking points as Dan Thorne goes a bit wide there, as I say that. But yeah, he's really, as you say, found his momentum and found his mojo, and he's really seemingly doing very, very well. And I do apologise, is that Bellingham ahead of him as well? It's Bellingham ahead of April Dillon. So.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
it is. We were commentating on the wrong bloke, so there we go.
Oh, we missed Dylan getting past Dan Thorne and assumed he was still there.
There we go. So Dan Thorne heading backwards, and Tom Bellingham, needless to say, is doing very well despite a big dent in his left-hand side door.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's got... Oh, the rear wing looks a bit dodgy as well from this view.
I wouldn't want to be the bloke who has to buff that out at the end of it. Bit of T-cut on that, I think, Tom, and you think you might be fine. Anyway, then, have you look then, as April Dillon, though, has got superior traction out of the Dequetteville hairpin in towards the left-hander and in towards the final part of the lap, and surely she's going to be in the slipstream in towards the straight and the centre chicane. So if she can position her car right, then I think she might be quids in there. Lap 10 out of 30 we're currently on, and I can't believe how fast the race has gone so far. Lap 10 out of 30 with 10% into the race. Anyway, sorry, a third into the race rather, I should say, not 10%. Get your facts right, Tom. Anyway, over to the right-hand side of the track, they come for the centre chicane. April Dillon not quite there at the moment. Great shot that is of the curb. And also Campbell Wallace very close behind as well, I believe that is. But we said that last time about Dan Thorne and Tom Bellingham, so we might be completely wrong. But we'll wait and see for a graphic to come up to correct us and spare our blushes. Anyway, Tom Bellingham, though, doing a masterful job defending from April Dillon at the moment of the RlyR Racing team. She's really got some momentum behind her, and we expected her to be a bit further up, but needless to say, performing very well, and every point counts, as we know in the V8 Australicars series, and indeed with every championship, and I think consistency is just her key at the moment.
Certainly is so, but it's amazing that Bellingham is able to keep ahead of her with what must be quite a funny handling car at the moment. So looks like he's got on top of it and he's adjusted his driving style. We have seen how he's weak on the brakes here. April Dillon has a little look, but thinks better of it, slightly not close enough, but Bellingham again goes deep, and we're going to see a replay of the last lap in which April Dillon tries to go around the outside, but really just nowhere for her to go.
Cracking defending though from Bellingham, I must say. He positioned his car absolutely perfectly through that left-hander and just shut the door right at the last minute as April Dillon was thinking about making a look up into that corner. But into the Foster's corner they come once again on lap 11 to start, lap 10 to start their 11th lap rather. We're on board then with April Dillon 3:15, and she's really got the pace and got some good grip on her tyres. We're expecting drivers, of course, to be coming in about 4 or 5 laps or so. The pit window will be opened then. Of course, halfway through the race you do...
Ooh, Dillon just almost did the same as Bellingham there.
Yeah, certainly did, and I'm really surprised, as you mentioned, Bellingham to be not struggling with as much damage. As I was mentioning, the pit window, of course, that's a very, very important part of this race. Pit stops we're expecting, tyre wear, as ever with these cars, very, very high, especially on these street circuits as well. The abrasive tarmac really not helping matters. But anyway, yes, Tom Bellingham there, he's going to be looking to pit at some point, and he may get some damage repair done during the pit stop. Maybe they might be able to just bodge a couple of things and sort this Holden out, but I don't know, because he might just sort of think that, well, I'm in close combat with Dillon at the moment, so maybe it's worth sort of sticking out the damage. But April Dillon, though, closer than ever, up the inside into the De Quetteville hairpin. Is the 315 going to be able to make the move stick? Yes, she does. Up into 5th place then for the Howler Racing Team driver, and she manages to stay ahead finally of Tom Bellingham. A cracking duel between those two, and it's now down to Dillon to make inroads into the 4th place driver, who I'm not entirely sure who it is at the moment. We'll wait and see for a graphic to come up. Anyway, then on board with Bjorn Golder, who's just ahead of them at the moment. Craig Woolard just ahead of Golder then, and the Scuderia Cello car. Craig Woolard, of course, driving for Eiffel Motorsports. And a very interesting livery on that car. The car that we always think is missing its front bumper, but it's just the paint scheme it's got on it. Anyway then, Bjorn Golder though, suffering from some damage following that earlier contact, but not seeming to hinder his progress at the moment. The number 10 we're looking at on screen currently then. And it's very, very close behind. Look at this with these sequences of right-handers. Oh, and Woolard there goes a bit wide, succumbing to the pressure of Golder. Is Golder going to be able to launch a move? They come on to the Brabham Straight once again in the slipstream now. Is Golder, is he going to be able to launch a move into the De Quetteville hairpin then? We'll wait and see. He's in the slipstream now, got a perfect opportunity. Woolard then not gone too defensive. Into the right-hander they go, flat out bit there, and Woolard loses his momentum as he clips the wall, so it's easy prey then for Golder. Up the inside into the De Quetteville hairpin, parks his car perfectly and allows his run to continue, and Woolard is not able to make a move, as he's also got, of course, April Dillon very close behind as well. Don't forget, of course, that Golder will have to get out of the way of Dillon, so that could be an interesting thing to take into account. He may have got past Woolard, but he may not be able to stay there, of course, due to losing time at the moment. But Hirani of the offenders, we've hardly mentioned in this race, comfortably out in front. A massive gap to the rest of the field have the offenders got.
Yeah, they're just in a class of their own, as is the usual case with things. Ollie Knight hasn't really been able to keep up with them this race so far, and it looks like Hirani has also dropped. James Price-Harper's kind of still hanging in there, but just eking out a little more distance. But Hirani rather doesn't seem to be pushing too hard, whereas Price-Harper seems to be trying to use every sort of inch of the circuit. So maybe Hirani's got a little in hand and he's just keeping it there in case he has to, but doesn't really want to risk it all. We're not even halfway through the race, of course.
Well, perhaps not. I mean, he may be trying to conserve his tyres, of course, at this stage in the race. Pit window open, so he might just be sort of trying to drop the pace a little bit, keeping it a bit comfortable, but also pushing on and setting some consistent lap times. Not necessarily quick lap times, but very consistent is Hirani, as we know. So he might just be trying to conserve his pace, stop the heat going through the tyres as much, and maybe just trying to eke it out for a bit of a Dan-dare strategy. Oh, is Bellingham there straight into the barrier. A second collision for the barrier then with the Independables driver. The number 33 goes straight in there, loses his front bumper. So, oh my goodness gracious me. It's all going from bad to worse then for the Independables team. How?
Yeah, oh, he just turned in too early and yeah, got sent straight into the opposite wall.
Easily done. There we are. Oh dear, it is. So that's how he lost his bumper. So it wasn't actually that right-hander that I was talking about. So he lost his bumper earlier on, and dear oh dear. So not going too well for
wow.
Dear oh dear. Oh dear, that's Wallace going round, isn't it, as well? Goodness gracious, spinning round the number 64. On lap 14, the yellow flag comes out, manages to keep things going and pointing in the right direction, but another spin then he'll be wanting.
Oh, is that Rob Covey is somewhere in?
It is.
On skateboard, he's gone too far in.
Yeah, so maybe out braking himself into there. Easily done, of course, just miss your braking point by a couple of metres. That can be enough to lock the fronts and send you straight in there. But Covey doing the decent thing, waiting for the traffic to come back through, I think, and then going back out onto the circuit. There we are, great craftsmanship from the Canadian.
And there is Bellingham now in the pits. Ooh, looks like a big job for his mechanics to do. Don't know if we're really going to see him come out again, but Bellingham is not one to give up, so we could see him return to the track if he feels he can continue. And he, of course, yes, there he is.
There we go. So as you say that, right on cue. He comes out of the pit lane and will let his pit limiter off to start another lap. He'll be further down the order than he would have liked to be, but needless to say, Bellingham a very consistent driver, very quick as well when he wants to be, and he's demonstrated some good pace so far, so you never know, he could be up into the latter part of the points as we progress. We're in the half stage of the race now, so scheduled pit stops are expected to be made within a couple of laps. But anyway, Dave Morley then, who's in 9th place at the moment. Great run for the Monolith Motorsport outfit, I must say. Currently, as I mentioned, the 149 in 9th position, so inside the top 10 for, I think, one of the first times this season, Nick.
Yeah, ooh, just go. Oh, and Bellingham's. Oh, dear.
Spins again. Cold tyres, I think, for Bellingham there. Just getting a bit caught out and spinning round and round and round. Dear oh dear. It's a merry-go-round for the Independables team this afternoon. Not what they will have wanted, and also Hamilton very close behind as well. Not sure if Hamilton's a lap down though, so we'll wait and see on that front. But anyway, he's still got all of his bumpers on his car, and his aerodynamics look to be okay. Going through the right-hander then, Bellingham then still on the recovery drive. He was very close, as we mentioned, behind Dave Morley of the Monolith Motorsports outfit, but wasn't able to get past. Oh, and spinning again! No, 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 out of the Duquetteville hairpin, and just manages to avoid Alex O'Dell. They didn't need another impact together, did they? And into the barrier he goes. Will he have lost his front bumper due to that? Let's hope not, because another trip to the pit lane is not what the Independables driver would be.
Oh, it looks like he's still got it. If that's any small consolation for him, he's probably might even be thinking of an excuse to drop out now. His car clearly...
Oh dear, as April Dillon there cuts to the grass trying to get past Tom Bellingham there. So there we go, he's come to the grass as well, trying to shortcut and make his lap as short as possible, trying to gain as much time. The good thing is, though, he can use the slipstream of April Dillon on the straight, so he'll get a few more miles an hour than he would have done otherwise, which is quite useful for him, I suppose. As that's Dan Thorne in the pit lane. Oh no, he was having such a good run, was the Independables driver, the 802. He's had a torrid race and a torrid season so far. But let's have a look at the impact then. Into the centre chicane, clips the curb. Oh dear, that's just what these high curbs can do. Into the curb. Let's have a look then. So gets the first apex, very nice. Oh, just clips the wall and sends the back end round and into the barrier for the Independables team. A tragic end to what was a good run for the Independables driver. Dan Thorne there out of the race. A shame for him, actually, I must say. I was really hoping he might go well. As, oh dear, spins galore. Alex O'Dell spins round, and also April Dillon as well. Synchronised spinning between the two. The Howler Racing and the Power drivers going around in tandem. Well,
I'm amazed O'Dell's... Oh, April Dillon almost goes into tie barrier again, but yeah, O'Dell's car looks pretty intact for the amount of spins he's had today.
Yeah, it certainly does. It's holding up very well. Harali, though, he's not had any spins so far, taking very much a lot of curb there, but also Price-Harper not managing to get to bridge the gap, but in the same means, also Harani not managing to create much of a gap as well.
No, and we are on lap 17 now, and maybe these two are trying to chicken each other into seeing if they can goad each other into a non-stop race, maybe.
Which one's going to pit first? You never know if they are going to pit indeed. Of course, we saw that earlier in the season. I think it was Eastern Creek with Lee Harrison. He decided to go the whole 40-minute race, didn't he, on one set of tyres, which he was passed on the last lap by, of course, Sam Harani, wasn't he? So there we are. That was quite the race to watch. I love commentating on that one. I'm loving commentating on this one. It's always action-packed in the VR Australicars series, and today is no different. Thank you for joining us, by the way. If you want to send us a tweet, you can do. Let us know that you're watching. Hashtag V8 Australicars. Of course, you can send us a tweet on there. The spelling, of course, of Australicars is on the dashboard at the moment of Alex O'Dell's car, so you can't misspell it, if that's any consolation.
But you can mispronounce it, as we've both fallen afoul of.
Easily done. Pronunciation not my strong point, nor nationalities by the sounds of things either. Anyway, O'Dell we're currently on board with, going onto the Brabham Straight again. A great part of the lap this is, as Golder there clipping the wall on the outside, going through that. And who was that into the barrier? Was that... was it O'Dell? I thought the black livery might be...
Oh, it must be Bellingham, I think.
Bellingham again, goodness gracious. So that's Bjorn Golder then, and Haddleton going head-to-head at the moment. Also spare a thought for Pete Walker as well. I think Pete Walker is a lap ahead of these guys at the moment.
I think so. He's just trying to weave his way through, and it's not... It's always hard when you're in a battle, but you've got to let someone through, but you don't want to let them tooth...
There you are. That's why, because Bjorn Golder there, and also Ben Haddleton able to take advantage of it, and oh dear, not surrendering his position. No, and oh dear, Tom Bellingham, another incident for him, and Haddleton going into the pit lane. So that's a I suppose not. He was facing the right way at least. I think he's going to make his scheduled pit stop now, so that might have changed the strategy of his race somewhat, and indeed for the Fire Cruiser racing team. But you never know, it might be a bit of an advantage for him, so he might be thanking Bellingham after the race for that.
Yeah, certainly. So we've seen a few late pit stops. Some people do like that kind of strategy. They like to have really fresher tyres at the end. Personally, I would always want to sort of pit as late as I could for that very reason. It's always more fun to chase down another car, but of course you've got to take into account the nature of the circuit, and if it's difficult to overtake, you might want to do the reverse and come in earlier than everyone, but we didn't really see anyone pit that early. I think lap 14 was the first pit stop we saw, so no one going for that tactic today.
No, certainly doesn't look like it. Lap 19 we're on out of 30, by the way. Goodness gracious me, 2/3 into the race already. And we haven't seen that many pit stops, as we would imagine so far. So, unless they've made them unsighted, of course, drivers going the longer distance, as you mentioned there, Nick, trying to have a fresh set of tyres for the end of the race. But that, of course, does throw up a bit of a variable, because those who have pitted, of course, have fresher tyres. Those who haven't pitted have older tyres, will have fresher tyres in the latter part of the race. So there you go. It could be a case of they'll be able to make a storm, as we saw in Formula E with Scott Speed in Miami, I believe it was. He had sort of fresher tyres and more energy. I know it's a bit of a different circumstance there, but yeah, he had fresh tyres and, of course, more energy, and was able to make inroads in the final part of the race and finished, I believe, second it was.
Yeah, it was a great little strategic move there by the American. And we just have a power sandwich here with Bjorn Golder. In between, of course, I think Alex O'Dell is on a different lap to his teammate, so kind of a forced one there.
Golder and I believe O'Dell are battling for position at the moment currently, so there we are. That's interesting. There we are, as we see Bjorn Golder then in 10th, Alex O'Dell in 11th. So the 30-year-old who celebrated his birthday in February of this year, he'll thank me for that later on, I'm sure. He is really looking to get past Bjorn Golder, and I think it might be a bit of a tactical move from the power team. He's, I think Pete Walker might be on the old strategic thing to try and hold Golder up as much as he can, to hope that O'Dell will be able to get past and get into the top 10 and get a decent points haul for the power team. But clipping the barrier is not the way to do that through that right-hander of Brewery.
But look at him, how strong he is on the brakes there.
Unbelievable, isn't it? Absolutely fantastic driving between these two. Fantastic. Anyway, going through the left-hander, they go. Lap 20 out of 30. Hirani is on now, Sam Hirani. These guys coming to complete lap 19 and on to lap 20 then. And superb grip from these tyres. I must say, I was really expecting drivers to be struggling more than they are doing, but seemingly okay. But O'Dell, they're getting a bit on the grass, and that hindered his braking point for the Foster's corner again. But needless to say, manages to gather things up and carries it on again. But Pete Walker then holding Golder up somewhat, it looks at the moment.
Yeah, and I think you might have a point about him doing it deliberately, because obviously he's a very big team player, Pete Walker. He thinks a lot about not just himself, but also the team he drives for. So I can't imagine, having got past him, that this is his actual genuine pace. He must indeed be holding him up, but no way. Ooh, he's just clipped the wall there, Golder, but no real way that O'Dell can take advantage of that.
No, certainly not. The other thing to take into account, of course, is that Golder is on fresher tyres due to his earlier pit stop as well, but O'Dell also on relatively recent tyres, because of course he had to pit as well at a later stage of the race. So these two on relatively sort of even tyres, but Pete Walker on the slower stage. He hasn't pitted yet. He clips the barrier. No, dear. And Bjorn Golder takes advantage of it, as does O'Dell. So I don't think Walker, no, he doesn't hold his teammate up. Oh, as O'Dell spins and collects Walker. Goodness gracious me, that's not what he wants to be doing. And we were talking about the drama there. Bellingham goes up into 11th, and O'Dell down into... Oh, as Lee Harrison spinning around in sympathy as well. That is a bit of a weird place to lose it, because normally you're on the power quite significantly there, but these cars really do bite in all gears. The amount of torque going through the rear wheel, 600 horsepower indirectly going to each wheel, and quite the amount of torque as well, as we mentioned. And older tyres, really not the place you want to be, but Hirani, as we mentioned, comfortably out in front. James Price-Harper there going through shot. The offenders dominating this race at the moment.
Yeah, I'd love to see a lap chart at the end of this race between these two, because the gap must be incredibly consistent between them. It's hovered about the 1.5 second mark all race long.
It certainly has, and Hirani, they're not letting up too much, actually. I thought he'd be taking it a bit easier. Surely he'll be looking to make a pit stop at some point. We'll wait and see when he does come into the pit lane. Not this time on lap 21, maybe lap 22, because he's really going the distance on this set of tyres. Unbelievable. So are they going to go to the end without pitting?
It looks that way. I mean, I couldn't imagine what kind of strange tactic they'd have to be banking on pitting this late. And well, I suppose unless they knew that their tyres were going to dramatically fall off the cliff, and it was a perfect spot to do it. But I can't imagine that's the case. I think they're just going to see it out to the end. And here's Ollie Knight, our third podium position. He's also had quite a lonely race. He's sort of seen the other two just streak ahead of him, but not really challenged himself either.
Here's someone who's not been quite lonely though. He's been in contact with the barrier a lot of the time to keep him company. Campbell Wallace, the Kaibitsu racing driver, number 64, currently chasing down Matt Davies in front of him of the PSP Motorsports team. And he's very close behind, coming through this right-hander then and on towards the Dequetteville hairpin. Clips the barrier on the outside, loses a bit of momentum, but Davies did the same. And Wallace goes towards the outside into the braking zone. No way through there. Tries to get the switch back up the inside in towards the left-hander, but I think Matt Davies is going to have the line unless Wallace can make a dare move up the outside. No, he can't through the left-hander then and in towards the Foster's corner. And I think Wallace's chance is going to come on towards the main straight and the start-finish straight again into the centre chicane. But it's very much one time through there, so we might have to see this carry on for another lap.
Yeah, you really have to be on the inside with that double left to make a move. I think it was Woolard who made it on lap 2 or 3, and that's the only time we've seen anyone make up a position for that series of corners. Going around the outside. Oh, Wallace is in deep, but almost.
Inside, maybe into the, oh, goodness gracious. No holes barred between these two. Very close racing as well. They were millimetres apart. Through there they went. Fantastic driving.
Certainly so. I mean, it almost looked like Wallace was going to collect Davis, but he managed to stop it just in time. Of course, it's going to rob his momentum and hurt his chances of making the overtake on this lap, although he's keeping close to him, so he's got a little bit of a pace advantage and he might be able to get him on this lap.
Yeah, might be able to. Kaibitsu Racing have a bit of a torrid race so far. Crawford we haven't really mentioned at the moment, but he's been doing sort of consistently okay, really, I think. He's sort of kept out of trouble as far as we're aware. I haven't seen the on-screen incident, at least, but he's doing okay. But there we are, Campbell Wallace up the inside into the slipstream. Surely he's going to be able to make the move. Oh my goodness gracious me, look at that fantastic overtake there from Campbell Wallace up the inside through that right-hander. I really didn't think anybody would be able to make that pass in the race, but Wallace up into 13th, not a points-paying position, but you think these two were fighting for the championship.
That was unbelievable. I mean, I suppose you take your chances when they come to you, but that was incredibly brave there by Wallace. A slight tap and it would have gone all wrong for both of them, and now the leaders are going to come up to lap them, so Davis is going to have another chance to get by, but might be the position lost really, and he's struggling with rear grip now.
He certainly is. Who's that also in the pit?
Kowalski.
It is Kowalski. Nice eagle eyes there, Nick. Nicely done. Anyway, in towards the centre chicane they come, or Harani there as comes for the 24th time. These guys on their 23rd lap at the moment. They're currently looking at Matt Davies and Campbell Wallace. And I think the gap between Price-Harper and Harani certainly shrunk somewhat.
No, it does certainly does look that way. And now, of course, these back markers might have an impact on the leader of this race.
It certainly might do. An offender's win either way will be quite good for the team, but Harani, though, is comfortably out in front in the championship. Some team orders between these two. And I don't know, though, because I know James quite well, and he's very much a pride man. He does like to take a good victory every now and then, but he's certainly a team player as well. Davies, though, going a bit wide out of that right-hander, and that allows these two to take advantage of it. The two offenders will have the momentum going on to the back straight once again, heading towards the Dequetteville hairpin they come, and Matt Davies sensibly moves out of the way into there.
Ooh, and that was a bit brave there by Price-Harper. You never know if the back marker's going to see the second driver and swoop down in onto you.
You certainly don't, and also he needs to be very wary. Of course, he might have been braking a bit later into that hairpin, and you never know, just those few metres too late could have sent him into the side of his teammate, and I think we would have seen a bit of a Lewis and Jensen, what is he doing team radio sort of thing from Canada. Making a lot of Formula 1
I think the radio will be unbroadcastable in this.
Yeah, something along those lines. Anyway, getting back to it, lap 25, Harani has just crossed then, 5 laps remaining, a yellow flag on screen. We'll have to wait and see what that's all about, but Harani just leading, and that's why. That's Campbell Wallace, I believe, of the Kaibitsu racing team, who spun around at the centre chicane. Will he be able to manage to get things going again? I think it was just a simple spin, and he might be able to, probably just a bit too much curb, and does manage to right his car as we see the green flag coming out once again. But 5 laps remaining, as we mentioned, and these drivers not yet pitting as far as we know, so tyre wear not as bad as we might believe. Actually, I thought it might be a bit more severe than this. Perhaps they're just sort of,
as you are.
Because there are a lot of fast corners on this circuit. That does need to be sort of taken into account. There are a lot of fast corners, but a lot of slow corners as well, but also a lot of heavy braking zones, especially the Dequetteville hairpin, of course, after this straight, the Brabham straight at the moment. So you never know. They may just be struggling with tyre wear, but of course everybody else might be in the same boat. But Ollie Knight we're on board with, or we're looking at the moment. He is managing his tyres very, very well with 5 laps remaining of his race at the moment. As you mentioned, Nick, having a lonely race. I thought he was going to lose it there. The rear locked up just momentarily going through that left-hander, but he managed to keep things the right way. Thankfully for Ollie Knight, no more dramas for him.
Certainly so, but look, he's actually caught up to him now, maybe because it's because of traffic, or maybe he's been able to manage his tyres better. But you can see now he can, like, the gap between them is shrinking by the lap, and maybe twisting the tail here, maybe Ollie Knight can take another victory.
You never do know with these series, you never do know with the V8 Australicars Championship, and you certainly don't know with Ollie Knight, Sam Hirani and James Price-Harper out in front as well. Anything can happen, and it usually does. Price-Harper, they're locking the rear into that right-hander then of Wakefield. They did very well there to hold on to that.
He certainly did. I'm just wondering on the tyre wear front, there's obviously the very fast right-handers, but there's a few demanding left-handers as well. Usually if there's more demanding on one side, then it can lead to very imbalanced cars and obviously force you to pit. But maybe the tyre wear is quite severe as we were thinking, but it just happens to be more even, so the drivers can live with it.
Well, of course, it's an anti-clockwise circuit configuration, as we know, so the tyres do generally wear on the left-hand side, left front especially in the fast corners, more so than any other tyre on the car. The rears do take a bit of a pounding, of course, due to the 600 horsepower going through the rear of the car, but needless to say, the gap between the two leaders has now shrunk significantly, just a few, almost a car length separating them, so a couple of tenths of a second, if that, separating Hirani and Price-Harper, with 4 laps now remaining of the race. And Hirani is on the ragged edge, as Price-Harper also is as well. Odell spinning around at the final corner again, and I think that is April Dillon as well, or maybe Rob Covey, one of the two. It's a Howler racing car either way, and he manages to get things righted. But lap 27, they're on now. 3 laps now remaining. The 3 leaders separated by just a couple of seconds. It's really hotting up here at Adelaide. Nick, my goodness gracious me, we are in for a cracker of a finish.
Yes, and for the first time since lap 1, James Price-Harper is going to have an attempt at the lead, maybe, if we can get a good run onto the main straight. Of course, Ollie Knight is not too far behind either. Anything that goes wrong between the two in front, and he'll be in the pound seat for the jackpot.
Yeah, certainly will. Nice gambling reference there, Nick. Nicely done. Anyway, onto the back straight they come once again. These 3 top-class drivers, and really demonstrating they've got these V8s hooked up to the max. The Holdens they're all driving, and they've really sort of exploited the setup very, very well, and showing that they have a lot of grip and a lot of confidence in their car. Oh dear, it was all going so well. Ollie Knight then straight into the back of James Price-Harper, spinning him out of 2nd place. Goodness gracious me, that allows Hirani a bit of a breather, so the race looks to be his for the taking, but Ollie Knight then crashes into the back of Price-Harper, and that sends them significantly round as Rob Covey has another spin in as many laps. 2 spins in 2 laps. Dear oh dear.
Maybe he's also trying to go to the end, but finding that his tyres are just dying out on him. But that was a real shame there. Of course, Ollie Knight is the architect of his own demise. He has the most to lose by Hirani being gifted a win, should we say. Obviously, he's still got to work for it, but he's a little less troubled now that the 2nd and 3rd positions are a little further away from him now. So, just a shame, really. It looked like it was going to be a great 3-way finish for the victory, and something similar happened to myself in one of the early seasons between Matt Davies and Arlo Colonel. We were all together on the penultimate lap. Looked like it was going to be a 3-way battle for the lead, and Matt Davies outbraked himself, took himself and myself out, and Niall just streaked on and won the race.
Yeah, it certainly can happen, and well, I've tested these cars quite significantly, and they are brutal beasts to tame, I must say. The 600 horsepower V8 cars, of course. The difference, of course, between, well, this and real life, as we should probably mention, really, is the fact that, well, there's a lot of different variables. You still get tyre wear, you still get fuel wear, you still get different mechanical failures happening, but yeah, there's a lot of increased tyre wear actually going on than you would imagine in a significantly sort of realistic race, more so than anything, I have to say.
Yes, and of course what you don't get in these is the physical exhaustion that the real-life V8 drivers will be experiencing in that cockpit. They don't have to sit in 40-degree heat.
I think Hirani might be breaking a sweat after this one, actually.
True, yes.
So I think that Price-Harper probably breaking a sweat, but more so for different reasons. Probably bum clenching time from his incident with Knight. Anyway, getting back to the action then, Odell just ahead of these two into the final stages of the race. Just 2 laps remaining then until Hirani is home and dry for race 1. Of course, we've still got the 20-minute sprint race. If you can join us for that, we'd love to have your company for that. And I tell you what, fireworks galore, half the race distance, and Hirani then Price-Harper then getting very, very sideways out of there, and Knight also pushing equally as hard. Yeah,
you can really see everyone's rear tyres are finally starting to give up the ghost, and everyone's struggling now. Oh, look, lots of understeer there by James Price-Harper.
Yeah, these cars do understeer a lot. They have a tendency to have a lot of mid-corner understeer. Through the high-speed corners as well, it can be quite detrimental to your speed through that section of the lap. But drivers sort of seemingly struggling, seemingly getting okay with it, getting to grips with the circuit now. The qualifying session will have helped them somewhat. Learning the circuit, of course. This is a first trip to the southeast coast for many. And drivers struggling somewhat with the circuit configuration. But needless to say, one who isn't, Sam Harani of the Offenders, looking to increase his championship lead. 15 points he currently is ahead of Ollie Knight, and I think he's going to do the race victory as Price-Harper then goes very, very wide into Foster's corner, and Ollie Knight might be able to get fairly and squarely up into second place on towards the final lap then. So Sam Harani is on the final lap of the Offenders. James Price-Harper then of the number 78 is struggling with his rear grip. Ollie Knight equally so, but they're very, very close on towards the final lap then, in towards Wakefield Corner and East Terrace once again through the 90-degree left and the right-handers, and it is hotting up for second place at the moment.
Yeah, and there's only really going to be one chance for him to do it, obviously into the hairpin, so he's got to keep close to him. James Price-Harper, we've seen struggling with every corner, almost unable to stop the car.
Look at that, going very, very wide out there. Ollie Knight, though, getting very good traction. Also, Alex O'Dell moves out of the way. He's in the slipstream then, coming down towards the right-hander and in towards the Duquetteville hairpin. On the Brabham straight they go, and Ollie Knight almost bump drafting James Price-Harper through there they go. And Tyres very close to the wall and loses his momentum. I think that might be curtains then for Ollie Knight. He tries to go around the outside into the hairpin. Is he going to be able to make the move stick? No, I don't believe he is. I think the taking is for James Price-Harper. Dear oh dear oh dear, I really thought he might be able to make the move stick, but James Price-Harper significantly struggling with grip on the final lap of the race, and understandably so as well. Not made a pit stop. He's managed to make the tyres last. Coming into the final corner, then is he going to be able to make the move stick? Oh no! Spins off into the final corner. Dear oh dear, as Sam Harani wins the race for the Offenders, the reigning really rubbish racing champion takes the victory. James Price-Harper takes second position. Cracking race from him, and Ollie Knight does indeed recover to third place.
Well, what an exciting finish to that race, really. I mean, looked like Ollie Knight was even going to get that position on the last corner, but spun round at the last turn. And wow, Harani though, what a victory! What
a drive from the Offenders driver. What, from lights to flag, 13 laps without a pit stop. I cannot fathom that. I can't believe he did that. The tyre wear, especially at such a circuit as this, is significant. But there we are, 20 points on the board for Sam Harani. James Price-Harper then in second place, 15 points for him. Ollie Knight takes third. Pete Walker, a well-deserved fourth place. Lee Harrison recovered to fifth place after his earlier dramas. April Dillon in sixth. Tom White in seventh. The German Bjorn Golder for the Scuderia Acello team finished 8th position and a lap down. And then the drivers who didn't manage to score a point. Campbell Wallace there in 14th. Matt Davies ahead of him in 13th. Craig Woolard 15th. Neil Crawford, quiet race for him, but relatively off the pace. 16th place, he'll be looking to capitalise on that for race 2. Championship standings then, Nick.
Yeah, Harani is now, well, 23 points ahead. That was a great boost to his championship chances there. Of course, Ollie Knight there only finishing in third position. Could have won the race, but that's how things can swing around. April Dillon still in third position, obviously a long way out, and probably not going to be a factor in the championship, but still staying ahead of James Price-Harper in fourth.
Yeah, certainly so. The drivers who are yet to score a point further down the order, Dan Thorne there, yet to have a point on the board for the Independables. He'll be ruining his race. He had such strong pace, as we saw, and needless to say, he'll be disappointed. But the championship team standings, and the Offenders increased their lead significantly on Junior Motorsports, 179 points to 115. Power that they're sitting just under 100 on 99 in third. Howler Racing fourth. Valor in fifth for the team, 45 points for them, and then the teams yet to score a point, of course, further down the order. Anyway, that's it for race 1.
Yeah, well, it's great. I mean, can't really wait for race 2 now. With that reverse grid as well.
Let's have a look at the highlights then. Dear oh dear, goodness gracious me. The incident turn 1 saw Tom White and one of the other cars going round there. Alex O'Dell slotted his way up there. Great overtaking on the first lap as Ben Harrison went into the wall. Tom White there, recovery drive, but spinning around was Craig Woolard later in the race. And Dan Thorne had a great start to the race, but collected there by Alex O'Dell. Managed to pit and just get avoided by the cars, but O'Dell, his race somewhat hampered by that. And we saw a massive impact there for Tom Bellingham into the barrier after clipping the wall on the inside, as some great overtaking took place further down the field. As there we are, that was Dan Thorne's demise, just clipping the curb too much, straight line into the chicane and into the barrier for him. Anyway, looking at the action further later on in the race, Campbell Wallace though challenged Matt Davies for the final points at paying positions, didn't manage to get past, and this was the all-deciding overtake for the victory, or attempt at it rather I should say. Ollie Knight just misjudging his braking, going into the side of Price-Harper, but managed to get things back on track. But it was Sam Harani who was victorious here at Adelaide for race 1. The 20-minute sprint is just underway in a few moments' time.